Hello, Internet! I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Timothy.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast where we talk about video games and such. And we're actually not really going to be talking about any video games in particular.
And then you just lost half your audience.
Or we're
right
talking
there.
about all of them at once. This is going to be a weird episode, but this is also, like, something that, I think, Kim, you brought this up and wanted to discuss this as an episode, because this is something that we do and don't really talk about, and I don't know if you guys do, or if you don't, you might need this episode for some help, because there's a ton of video games out there, and I'm sure there's a lot that you want to play, and trying to make sure that you don't, like, get lost in playing one thing, but then another thing comes out and you buy that, and then, like, a few months later, you forget where you were in, like, 3 other games, and
basically, we're going to be talking about my favorite topic today, writing lists.
and organizing things.
Yep, there goes the other half of the audience.
Yeah, well, to make it more, I don't know if this is just neurotic and weird or interesting. Visually, we're going to be looking at my video game resume, which is a strange thing that I do. I might make a whole episode on this.
I feel like we need to make a whole episode
Honestly,
on the video game resume.
It would be a series of episodes, I feel like, because the way that this works, and size-wise, you actually don't quite see it off the bottom. So I'm going to move Firefox a little bit just so you can see it. I have tabs on this. Actually, we'll just keep it here instead. For every game console that I have played. And I can, like, switch through, jumping through certain stuff. And then with pictures, names, and all that. And I, like, categorize them by...
But that's not what we're talking about today.
No, but that's what this visually is. And so I do this as an extreme measure, one, to know what I have access to, as opposed to not just what I have played, which originally, at making a game resume, if we ever get to talk about that, of course, it's like logging, like, I did this in this game, I beat this, and I can remember and, like, take notes for things. It's another reason why I like making videos about video games, because my memory's awful, and I get to permanently remember my thoughts on everything of, you know, Metroid Prime Hunters, because I made a video about Prime Hunters, and otherwise, if you ask me, like, right now, I would forget
Sometimes
everything.
the videos are the only thing keeping you from replaying a game about 5 times.
Yeah, it saves me from having to go back and play another game, but I'm not obviously recommending that you guys do that. But for the game resume, I still will go through and obviously log a bunch of different games that are from different systems. So I can, like, look through the Switch really quickly of stuff that I've played on here. I'll also tell it, like, what I rated it on playing with myself, certain accomplishments, campaign percentage, completion percentage, how long estimated I've played it in hours, and some notes on them. And then from that, in general, it helps me quickly skim through, like, okay, what do I have access to on the Switch? Because I just finished playing, say, like, Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. I want to play another game on the Switch, but I want to jump around genres. This helps me quickly look through it and go, oh, Pikmin 4 just came out. I want to jump and play Pikmin 4. And some of that's, like, an obvious thing to do, but it gets a little more complicated when you try and implicate what we call our play responsibly lists.
Well, actually, you don't even need the game resume to make the playing responsibly list.
No, you know, this is, like, a super extreme measure that I go to that at least, like, helps me keep clarity in the complete nonsense of what I have access to, because, for example... like the NES I pulled up, there's like hundreds of games in here, and I've only played like maybe half of them, and not even very long in each. And I wanted to make sure that, like, I remember, like, oh, I have access to this one, and I wanted to go back and play this. So I would remember, like, okay, it's been years since I've played Mega Man on the NES, but which one was I playing? I played Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, and I have notes on each one, so I know I can jump into Mega Man 3, and it's on my NES Classic. So... like, this helps me into trying to navigate the nonsense.
I think it's going to be what we're going to end up having to do is a whole video game resume episode explaining. You're already explaining a lot about it.
I know, but I want to make sure that...
know.
Sure, but this is just... that's all I want to say about it, so that if you're visually watching this and not just listening to us, this doesn't look like complete nonsense on screen.
It's a little bit.
It kind of is nonsense already, but still, at least it's something to get you understanding, like, what I'm looking at. So, moving from there, Games come out really quickly anymore. It's not like when we were kids, when you
get
were lucky if you
3
had...
or 4 a year, maybe.
Oh, yeah. You'd be
like,
lucky if you had that many a year.
And then, like, for me, I'd, like, get a game and I would play it. Like, I'd get home from school, I'd play it.
Yeah,
I'd wake up in the morning, I'd play it.
That's
just
the
that
one game. Yeah.
That one game.
I would eventually, when I would get to, like, high school, I would start moving around and jump into all sorts of other stuff. But the range of what I would jump around to isn't nearly as extreme as what it is anymore.
Exactly.
Now I want to jump to something, 40 years old, and then I'll jump to something that came out last week.
Well, also, the only times I would jump around is if I had friends over and we were playing a multiplayer game.
Sure.
Otherwise it was, I'm playing, for me, my JRPG.
Yeah, you're playing, chipping away at a Final Fantasy VII or a Legend of Dragoon or something like that. But anymore, see, like back then, I feel like a play responsibly list wouldn't have been important. But jumping to, the Switch again, just to look at modern stuff.
So,
when new stuff comes out and you want to play it, let's say Crisis Core, right? Because this, I think, is a great example because you have still not touched it and you pre-ordered that game.
I did.
Okay, so I'm sure this has happened to you. I got
the steel case for it.
Yeah, well, I was tempted by that too. But have you found yourself in that position? A new game comes out, you pre-order it, you are totally excited for this thing, and then you get distracted. You get sidewinded by some other stuff. You think you wanted 100% some other thing first, or like what about this other thing? Or I'm really feeling playing this type of game instead. And you drop it, and then you forget about it, and then months pass, and you realize
that
if
you've put 300 hours into Planet Zoo.
No, I would say you realize that you are now in the middle of like 15 games.
Yeah.
Like you start something because it's like one of the most fun parts about a video game is beginning it. In some regards, I would say that's the worst part of Monster Hunter. But like just starting a new game can be really fun, and it's tempting to just start things.
So I really want to go in before we get in too deep to explain the basis. I feel like you're beating around the bush just a little bit, but when it comes to what we say when we play responsibly, we were actually kind of the origin was we kept nagging at each other, and I kept saying, you need to stop starting games on the NES, and say like you need to finish
a Final Fantasy game already. And I would tell her like you have to finish Monster Hunter Iceborne. You are one monster away from beating the game.
2 monsters, and now I'm not even considering it.
I forgot. I forgot about that thing. But yeah, there's
anyway, that's
fight.
off topic.
Whatever.
But we were getting on each other because we're like, you didn't even finish this game, and now you're already starting this game up, and you're playing. I thought you were playing like 50 games on your SNES, and I'm like.
Because my resume would give you that impression that I'm actively playing all of them.
But that's the thing, like, we realized, we've really got to make this list a lot shorter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we got to know what we're going to play.
Yeah, the play responsibly list, she means, not the game resume.
Right, not the game resume. That can be miles.
Yeah, this is just cataloging, like, what I have played and what I have access to play. Which, of course, is a ton of stuff. And then there's some things like right here, Persona 4 Golden. I started playing that. I'm enjoying it, but like it's another RPG, and I wasn't thinking at the time because it was just coming out again on the Switch. Like I also got the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster series. That is asking a ton to jump in and play all of those RPGs. I think I was playing the DLC of Xenoblade 3 at the time. There's like so many other things just in that genre that I think starting that was irresponsible video gaming.
So that's what we decided. If you ended up dabbling something, now see, we got to define this here. If you dabble in something, you're like, I have no intention of finishing this. So that's another thing. We had to start trying to set goals. Mm-hmm. When we turned on this game, I did not have an intention of finishing it.
Right.
So then that's fine. You don't add it to your list. So basically, you got to come up with these arguments of why is this game on your list? It is a must-have to finish. And also, with the Play Responsibly list, I like to have another list back up to that, which is upcoming games. These are games that I have thought long and hard about that I know I want to play and I want to finish.
And I think, you gave it like 3 different levels. And one of them, we actually have a thing that we do in this household called Dabble Day, where we'll alternate weeks of who picks for the other person. But one week I will select a game that for Kim to play, whether she has played it or knows nothing about it, and she has to at least play 15 minutes of that game. And then we'll alternate. She'll pick one for me.
Sometimes when we do start that dabble, we can get really into a game and suddenly now it's on our list.
Yeah, which, I mean, is probably the best case scenario, but a lot of them I would like. I think the first one I did for you was Excitebike. I was like, you just try this game. I wasn't expecting you to like put it on your list because there's no real completing Excitebike. It was more interesting. But then another one I had that you are playing right now is Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And we try that with Dabble Day. Like, hey, just give this a try. This is one of my favorite games. And it can like work its way onto your currently playing as opposed to before. I think it was actually on your upcoming.
I don't know if it was on my upcoming. It was a game that I had thought about maybe playing, but there were so many other games I knew I wanted to play and that I wouldn't have given it a chance.
We kind of make ourselves try
by forcing each other to try this out.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes. It doesn't hurt. Unless you consider yourself actually starting it. Then it hurts. That's the thing. Like, if we're calling it dabble, as in don't even feel connected to your save file for 15 minutes. No. It's just 15 minutes. You're just like starting it to see like, do I like this kind of game? And then don't even go farther than that. If you already have a problem with starting too many games, I would recommend not doing this. Unless you have someone to hold you accountable. I think that's the only reason we're able to get far enough into it. Because otherwise you'd probably be still trying to chip away at Dark Souls because you started that and you enjoy it.
I am going to go back to that save file, or I might just start over from the beginning because I was only... Okay.
You just got to fire.
I was like
you basically
30 minutes in, but yeah.
You beat the tutorial. You got to fire Link Shrine.
Yeah, but now I don't remember the controls. So
it's a good idea to start over, yeah. Okay. It's not long. Anyway, so it was just a dabble day.
Our lists right now, we like to organize them by a certain criteria. Mm-hmm. When we're looking at a list, I don't know how many other people have multiple consoles in your household, or if you're having
many sitting downstairs. Do you have a Famicom disk system?
You don't have a Famicom disk system.
Shh, it's working on my NES Classic. And it lets me play Mysterious Murasame Castle, Kim.
But now being a family of 3, you know, we're starting to realize we're going to have to start sharing consoles a lot more. We have...
So the Switch is very important.
We only have one of each console. It's not like...
Except for the 3DS, which I've actually modded both of them, which helps a ton because I can put other consoles on them. So if, like, you want the TV, we'll figure out, like, who's playing what. By saying, like, okay, Kim wants to play Final Fantasy VII because she's replaying the original, the PlayStation 1, and I have it on a PlayStation Classic. So I'm like, okay, so that means you have TV. That means that I figure out, okay, something on Switch or the DS.
Yeah,
and vice versa. Yeah, we like work around each other to do that, and
so that's why it's helpful to have a list. So that way, when you do come and you're like, okay, I want to play Xenoblade or something like that, then I can say, okay, I can't use the Switch,
but you can have the TV.
But I can have the TV, and then I can work from that, and it helps relieve a lot of stress because then I'm not like, well, I was only playing Persona Royal. Yeah, I have to play that game. That's all I've been playing.
Or if you had too many games that you were playing, it helps you narrow it down. But that's just us.
But now I see a list, and when we first started these lists, I think we had 7 to 10 games.
That we wanted to put on it. We were even cutting from there of stuff that we were like, okay.
Eventually we did cut because, you know, just being able to visually see which games you're playing, and you're like,
yeah,
you know, I think I had the Spyro Reignited trilogy on mine for a really long time, and I'm like, I know Spyro. I've played Spyro. So I stopped it and then decided, you know, that's fine. I'm going to set it down, and I don't think I'll come back to it.
And because of you looking at it, and we physically actually write them out on paper and put it on our refrigerator. So we're always looking at it every day when we go to get food or something. So we will see a list on there. It'll say, Kim, play responsibly. And we'll write a list of games and a little checkbox next to them. And you're not allowed to put another game on that list until you have, you know, either checked off or color them in. And then, like, eventually when you fill in too many of them, obviously get another paper and we kind of move on. But sometimes when you're on, like, your third sheet, and I still have God Eater 3 on mine, and it's been there forever, it shows me, like, okay, like, I want to beat this game, but I'm not getting around to it. So I really need to, like, prioritize where I'm playing stuff if I want to play this, or exit and move, like, make room for something else that I want to play.
And that's kind of where I'm at with Monster Hunter Iceborne now. It keeps showing back up on my list, and ever since we've had a baby in the house,
You can't play that
Monster
game with
Hunter is
kids.
very difficult to play.
There's no freaking pause button. Like, what were they thinking when they... I don't know.
And just, like, realizing that I actually enjoyed Monster Hunter World, the base game, more than Iceborne, it's making me start to think, maybe I should put that down because I'm ready to move on to a new console. Or if I'm going to play anything on the PS4, I'm going to try to get FF7 Intermission or something like that.
Rebirth, yeah.
And then Rebirth coming out. So it's just... visually getting to see that, you know that it's just not, you know, feasible to keep playing it if I want to continue on with my life.
Well, sure, yeah. Circumstances changed. It's a lot harder for you to play it because apparently the people who make Monster Hunter don't have children and don't realize that pausing is really important, especially if you're just playing a single-player campaign. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm not even connected online.
I know.
Whatever.
Super dumb.
So we like to make sure when we have our list, I think right now we're keeping it between 5 and 6 games at a time.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make sure that there's one for each console, like we said.
Right,
so
and that pushes me over the 5 or 6 because I have more consoles that I'm interested in playing stuff on, whereas you're not. Like, the Wii in the back, you know, I just finished a GameCube game, was the most recent game that I finished. It was Pikmin 2. It's actually on camera right now. And I loved that game, but it's on the GameCube. So that's something like, you don't have any GameCube games coming up, and I'll like, okay, I finished Pikmin 2, I might want to switch over to, I don't know, Sonic Adventure 1, because I've never played that one, and like, eventually like, chip away at stuff that I wanted to put on my resume on top of play stuff that I really want to play. So like, Pikmin 2 got me really into wanting to finish Pikmin 4. So sometimes I'll beat like one style of a game and want to replace it with another style. So like, I didn't add any RPGs, like I said, until I'd beaten FF6. But I'm still looking at Persona 4 on there, and they're both, like, they're huge games.
Yeah, they're time commitments.
Yeah, like, the more I do this, RPGs are, like, a huge commitment to put on there, and sometimes, like, I'll decide one day, like, I just want to start and beat one game in one sitting, and I can do that by picking, like, an NES game, or in just, like, a week or so, I could beat, I beat Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel, Game Boy Color game, made by Hideo Kojima. You probably didn't even know it existed, and it's really good, and I played it on my modded 3DS to play, whatever. So I managed to actually play this game, and it didn't take me very long, and because of the fact that I have access to more systems to play, I'm able to write more stuff on there, and like I feel like I'm accomplishing stuff by beating the little things, and then I'll slowly chip away at the giant stuff that I want to beat, because those are intimidating.
I, on the other hand, just have a list of giant games, which I'm starting to realize is more of a problem. Luckily, he got me onto Link to the Past, so it's...
Yeah, that's like a 12-hour game.
So, briefly, let me mention my list here, because we were talking about different consoles and different genres for each game, so that way, if you're in a household where you have to share things, you know, this might be a good tip for parents, too. Have your kids start games on multiple consoles, so that way they're not like... Yeah,
so one, you're not fighting over the TV, but it's also like, sometimes you're just not in the mood to play a platformer. Sometimes you want to play, you know, an RPG, or you want to play, heck, you want to play a puzzle game. And you want to try to have those options in different places, because if someone's taking the TV, you need to be able to, like, switch around and play something else if you just want to sit down and play a game. Right.
So for my list, I also put on there specifics, how I wanted to beat it. Like, I can't say that it's beaten until I've done this thing.
Yeah.
Like, with me playing FF7...
I used to do that. I took them off.
With me playing FF7 again, I wanted to specify that this playthrough was different than my last one, whereas I am 100%ing the game. So I wanted to write that on there to make sure that once I've done that, I know I'm complete with the game.
Right.
And same with Persona 5 Royal. I said I want 100% all the confidants, so that way I know once that's done, I have beaten the game, you know?
Yeah, because otherwise you might be playing some of those RPGs or games that could theoretically go on forever, and you will be playing it forever. So I didn't, even though I got end credits in Pikmin 2, I didn't want to stop playing it, one, because I loved the game, but two, because I know there's a true ending to it, and that was my goal, to get to that. I wanted to find all the treasures and fight the real final boss. I already know when I'm starting them, typically, personally, I just want to see, if it's something that I really care about, I want to see the true final ending of it, and I want to get all the way through it to say that, like, I have completed that game. But there's still things like, for example... I consider, like, I've beaten Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3, but I've rolled credits on those. I didn't, like, beat all of the side quests and level up all of the towns, because that is one of those forever games. You could be doing it endlessly, and it's cool, it's interesting, but, like, there's other things I want to play, and I have to find a happy medium.
And you have to have that. I feel like it's important to have that specified on your list, so that way you know what your goal is. And I know we're making this all sound very business-like,
but there's
and,
so many games to play.
But it really does help. Like, I feel like I've been able to complete more games now, and a great place to start is just write down every game you're playing and really look at it and
look how many games you're playing. Also, another thing that we do, I don't want to keep cutting you off, but on our thing on the fridge, after the game name, we will write the console, and then I will highlight them in one particular color. So at a glance, you can see I'm playing way too many things just on the Switch right now. I need to try and branch out. Okay, I'm not playing anything on PC, and I just bought a bunch of things on Steam. What's up with that? Let's try and chip away at Steam or do something here. And it helps you very quickly, see if you have a problem that you don't even realize you have, and it'll help you more efficiently play and get to experience everything that you paid for. You want to play these games.
And that's the biggest thing. I think because games are coming out, like we said at the beginning, so much faster than they did when we were younger.
Yeah, like Crisis Core, you were excited about this. It comes out, we pre-order it, and you haven't even booted it yet.
You played it, and I watched that.
Yeah, in the review that I made, shameless plug, which
I think I would play it a little differently than you would. But,
yeah, I think you might like it more than me. I don't know. It's that game's not great. And I knew it wasn't great on the PSP. I was just wanted to play it on the Switch.
I really want to talk about we all have so many more games than we used to, and there's digital versus the physical now, and we have
I maybe had 6 games for the first 10 years of my life. There's a sales
addiction, when Steam pops up and it's like, hey, I got summer sale going on.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to buy A, B, and C? And you're just like, well, yeah, that's a great deal.
Hey, these things on your wish list are at a great deal. And then here, to be an extra savvy consumer, for one, if you're looking at Steam, there are websites that will track their sales history and show you, even if everything is on sale right now, is it the best sale it has ever been on, and how frequently do those sales happen? You might find they routinely have great sales in November. It's October right now, and it's on sale for 15% off, but the last 3 years, this game was on 35% off. I should wait till then. Also, if you go to Deco Deals is the website I use, they do this wonderful service, I think it's made by one guy, that will track basically anything Nintendo related. Unfortunately, it's just Nintendo stuff, but it's still super useful. Say there is something coming out that you either want to track when it's coming out, or if it's a game that you want to play and not forget about. So let's say Luigi's Mansion 3 is a game that is on Switch. I want to play it. I don't own it yet because, there's too many games you want to buy and play. So I'll track it on there. And sometimes it'll track physicals as well as digitals. So you can see okay, Nintendo eShop has sales every, few months or so for these, but it's not so great. But physicals, Target had a really great deal for this at this point. Or Best Buy just got a new shipment of these, I should try and get it while it's really cheap. And that's the best way to try and, one, financially make sure you can get stuff, but also not forget about things that you want to get.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a separate thing, but that is kind of how I pay attention to buying games, because like you said, there's so many.
There's so many, and you have just this fear of missing out on sales,
I know.
I feel like. And by having this playing responsibly list, you can see how many games you're already involved in.
Yeah.
And maybe you can say, I can wait on this game.
And genres, too. Are you playing too many of, this particular, Metroidvania, which is Luigi's Mansion, supposedly.
You can look at your list and you can say, you know what, I'm going to be happy playing all 5 or 6 of these games for the next 2 months.
Yeah, that's another thing. Imagine nothing comes out for the next year. Starting from today next year, not next couple months. If you're happy with playing what you currently own for all of that period, don't feel like you need to jump on buying whatever the new thing is. Even though Super Mario Bros. Wonder looks incredible.
Well, and here's the thing about games anymore. Now, back in the day, I would have said, yeah, you should probably get it right when it comes out. But games, more often than not, drop in price anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't go up in price. That really doesn't happen except for much older games at this point.
There's a curve. As soon as it becomes, outdated, the prices go down. And then when it becomes, retro and antique, they skyrocket again. So there's, a happy place to buy stuff. And I knew this even when I was younger. People were buying and playing the new, Nintendo Wii games, and I was like, but the Wii can play GameCube games, and they're all in the bargain bin. Let's buy a bunch of those, and good thing I did, because, actually, that's how I got Pikmin 1. And Pikmin 1 and 2 are both like $150 to $170 now. That's dumb. Yeah, it's because like they hit a certain hurdle and they skyrocket again.
Yeah. Xenosaga 3 is like
that's ridiculous.
15 or something like that.
Certain games get stuck to certain consoles, and that's a really bad thing. So Xenosaga was never playable on anything else. Pikmin 2 and 1 were only on the GameCube. Yeah. Luckily, they were ported and remastered to Wii U, I think, maybe Wii U, and now they're on their Switch. So now you can actually play those. So the
list can be just a great thing to help you get organized, get to play the games you want to play, and maybe even save a little bit more money in the end, because you're seeing, like, I'm going to be totally satisfied with all these games. So the way I look at it, we didn't even pull up a list of what games we actually have on our Play Responsibly list.
It changes all the time. And like
for you, it does. For me.
Oh, for me. Yeah, because you chose a bunch of enormous games, and that kind of shows, like, what your problem with that would be. You know, you could go to howlongtobeat.com, which is a great website for helping me figure out, like, guesstimate how long I've played certain games if I don't have the files anymore, by the way. But also, like, go through there, and there's a way to, like, filter what are the longest video games ever. Most of those are Kim's list.
I like to play them, but you have to realize I work a full-time job, and I have a toddler.
She wants a forever game.
So I only get to play it maybe once or twice a week, you know?
Whereas, like, I could point out right now, like, Kirby Planet Robobot on 3DS. You could finish this game in 6 hours like I did, and you will probably love it.
And this is just me. I don't like short games, because there was that thing when I was a kid where you're like, this is my game. This is my only game. I gotta play this. And once it's over, you know? And I know we don't really have that anymore, but
makes the ending of Xenoblade 3 even worse when you have to say goodbye to all of your characters.
Yeah, but for me, I need that longer game. So, like, on my list, we try to pick a variety of genres. I have Final Fantasy VII on our PlayStation Classic, and that's a JRPG. I have Persona 5 Royal on the Switch, another JRPG.
Yeah.
I have Persona 5 Strikers on the Switch. These are all 2 Switch games I have going on. I have Link to the Past, which you got me started on, which is a good breakup between those 3 heavy RPGs.
It's also a good pick up and play game.
It is. I actually had 30 minutes free this morning, and I just booted it. And then I could just leave.
I like having a mix of games like that, because there's a lot of games, you know, you want to sit down and put hours into in one day, and it can be exhausting. And other times he'll just be like, I want a break. I just want a cozy little short thing that I can just turn on, play for 10 minutes, and turn it off.
And I also, another game that I feel like a little bit more effort into is I'm playing Ghostwire Tokyo. And that's also a totally different genre. And it's so nice for it to be like, well, I want to go play that. And I played that for a few nights in a row. And I'm like, you know what? I could use a break from that. I can go play my RPG instead. But now I also know when I make my list of upcoming games, this is a list I kind of create as games are coming out and as we get them in, and I say that is a game I want to play no matter what. And I try to make sure that my systems are...
Oh, you open up a Switch spot and then you can put another Switch game in?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so yes, okay, let me make a better example of what she's trying to say. So right now she really wants to play the Xenoblade series because she played the Xenosaga games on PS2 growing up and knows that, well, now it's the same people, it's the same team, that's like the same series, and even canonically it's the same series connected nowadays, and she wants to get into play those. However, she is in the middle of Persona 5 Royal, which is basically the second time we're getting through this game, and Persona 5 Strikers. So those are all on the Switch. And moving from there, she's made the decision she's going to finish playing Persona 5 Royal and Persona 5 Strikers, right, before starting any Xenoblade stuff, because she already knows once she starts it, she's going to be in, and Persona 5 is probably going to accidentally fall by the wayside, and it won't get finished.
Yes, which is essentially what happened to Monster Hunter. And, you know, but I feel like I can confidently say, I can look at it at this point and say I'm setting it aside. And it's nice to be able to look at the list and say that, because then it's not nagging in the back of my head all the time, like, hey, you didn't finish this game. Hey, you didn't finish this game. Now I've consciously made that decision. I'm not completing this game. I have enjoyed it while I did, but I don't need to finish it because I want to finish something else that I'm going to enjoy more.
Right. I think one of them on here, we dabbled a bit. It was the first Persona game.
But yes.
Oh, it's called Revelations Persona. Yeah, I was looking into P's and PlayStation, and it was not there, so that's why. So we did dabble that for a while, and yeah, it's really fun. But she's already playing an RPG on that console.
Yeah, so I'm not. I nixed it off my list.
Yeah, even though she really wants to play it. So these are just rules that we've tried to come up with to help us play stuff more efficiently.
I mean, I feel like it's helped us save a lot of money. Like I said, we can look at the list and say, we've got all this to play. We don't need to buy something. We can wait for it to go on.
You get anxiety, too, feeling like, I wanted to finish that game. Like, I was in the middle of that.
Where was I? And you don't even remember, how long
I remember that happening a lot. I think the problem started as soon as I was able to feasibly get a lot of games that I wanted all at once, or have access to, say, the Nintendo Wii comes out, right? And I'm playing, GameCube, I'm playing Wii games on it, and then I discover the Virtual Console on it, and I start buying boatloads of, there's all sorts of games I have access to all at the same time, and I'll turn on, I remember turning on that system and feeling overwhelmed, and I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling a retro game right now, I'm feeling a Wii or a GameCube game, and then I looked at the stack of games, so just the titles going,
but now you don't even have to question it, because you have your list, and you say, I'm finishing this.
Yeah, I'm working on this, and this.
I'm working on.
And it's not like, a job, but it's making a structure to enjoyment so that you can just jump right into having fun.
We're getting more enjoyment out of the games, because I love being able to cross a game off of my list.
Yeah, though sometimes I will put games back on my list because I will come up with new things I want to do.
Or sometimes a DLC comes out and you're like, well, that's gotta go back on there.
Yeah, so Dread mode gets added to Metroid Dread, and I'm obviously like, yup, I'm playing that again. And then I made a stipulation to myself to beat it on stream, and then I wanted to have save files finished, so any excuse to keep playing Metroid Dread again. Yeah, I'm up for it.
And your yearly playing of Super Metroid.
Right, I have to call it my annual playthrough of Super Metroid. Otherwise, it's irresponsible playing.
Played Super Metroid 3 times this year, but
no, just if you count my current playthrough of the Super Metroid experience, is that what you count?
Yes.
Then it's 2. It's just 2, and I'm not even done with the Super Metroid experience.
Definitely count
we
that.
Just defeated Kraid, and it's been almost 2 hours of Super Metroid. I can beat the entire game 100% in less time than that. So no, I'm taking my sweet time in that one, but hopefully I can beat it before the end of the year, now that I think about it, because is that going to count as my annual playthrough for next year? No, it doesn't count. It doesn't count.
I'm sure you will pick it up again.
I absolutely will.
And it's kind of funny, we're picking up a lot more games now having a toddler in the house, because she'll be like, I want to see Katamari Damacy. I was having to play that every morning. For a while. Every morning, I had to play Katamari because
she was asking me for Pikmin this morning, and I played, I don't know if you guys have seen this, on the 3DS era, I think it was for 3DS, they let you, I think it was for Nintendo coins, but now they're free on YouTube. They made these videos for Pikmin, just advertising the game, and they're super cute. Look up Pikmin Shorts videos, Pikmin video shorts. You'll find them.
Page, yeah.
They're adorable, but she saw those the other day because you showed her. She wanted to watch them all again, so we had to watch those, and then she wanted more Pikmin, so we put in Pikmin 4, and she got excited watching the little Pikmin run around and just do stuff. So she will determine what I play sometimes. And I was not planning on starting Pikmin 4 today, but I did because my toddler said that's what I'm doing today.
And you know what? We have to also make sure we have a good balance of games that are appropriate for her to watch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let him play Dark Souls anymore when she got old enough to start comprehending that stuff.
That had to be my late night secret game that I was playing.
I think you played Kirby when she was awake.
I was playing some Kirby with her. And because of that, actually, it's funny you bring that one up. So Dark Souls 2 was the recent one that I had last played, and I haven't beaten all of the DLC for that, but I crossed it off my list because I've beaten the base game. I've beaten, I think, 1 or maybe 2 of the DLC. I don't remember how many there are. I think there's 3. And so I'm halfway through all of it, and I'm I still want to play it, but the thing is, I'm not feeling the huge drive to, play it. I basically have to play it at 11 every night, and then wake up super early with a toddler, and I wasn't feeling it, so I was all right, I'm gonna cross it off my list for now, because I beat the game. I'm gonna say my stipulation was, I rolled credits, if I want to go back, I know there's more Dark Souls waiting for me. So that's cool. I'll wait on it.
Right.
And then it let me open up new other things.
And sometimes you just sit down and you have to play all of Pokemon Snap.
You didn't have to. You did not have to. Don't say that. She started it to show her, Pokemon. Hey, look, here's Pokemon. You run around and you can take pictures of them. She loved that. And then she went to her nap time and you kept playing, and then
I had to finish it. I was so close.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't even touch my playing responsibly list, so that was playing very irresponsibly.
No, that's what I enjoy that, because you had beaten that previously though, right?
Yes.
So
that is the second time
that is irresponsible. So I was gonna say, if it was a game that it was new and you wanted to play it, sure. Like I feel satisfied knocking off a game I can beat in 3 hours. That feels good. Sometimes there is like a time for that, and there's like a time for like the big beefy giant game, because beating that is an undertaking, and it's not good to just throw a ton of those at your playing responsibly list all at the same time.
And we have to be careful. Like I said, we're trying to pick games that are more appropriate for when a toddler's up, and sometimes I'll play Persona when she's up.
Yeah, who knows when I'll get back to Bloodborne.
I know it has very risky themes, but she's also 2 and doesn't understand stuff, so it's like, but then she gets mad because she's like, I don't want to watch this is boring.
Well, she likes like the high contrast and that
she likes
kind of
watching like the intro cutscene.
Yeah, and luckily she doesn't understand that what Cheeto is saying is awful. She doesn't understand that part. She just sees like, hey, funny people, they fight.
And then she gets excited when Morgana comes on screen.
Oh, she loves that cat so much, yeah.
So it's just good to have that list to sort out your life. I guess kind of briefly want to go through them. Like, I think the best place for you to start is just write down every game that you want to play and you want to beat. Write down your consoles, and then maybe from there, that's when you start deciding stuff that you're like, nope, I'm not going to play that right now anymore. And
yeah, and keep it completely separate and ignoring your wish lists. So personally, I have a Steam wish list and a Deku Deals wish list, because it lets me look at my Nintendo stuff and my everything else stuff, right? And even if it's something I don't plan on playing on Steam, I still want to track it there, or at least like put it in like an Amazon wish list or something, just so that like keep your wish list separate from this, because otherwise, if you have too many things like all at the same time, that's the problem we're trying to avoid. If you can like cut down all the fat, and looking at new stuff is looking at new stuff. You do that when you open up spaces on your play responsibly list. So you have to like beat X and Y before you're able to go purchase Z and add it to your list.
Right. I thought you were talking about Pokemon briefly.
Play them if you want. I don't know. It's Pokemon.
Well,
they're all the same.
I was just mentioning this thing about how our daughter can decide what we're playing sometimes. And it just happened that you purchased Pikmin 4 the other day. Pikmin 4 was on my upcoming list before we purchased it. So I'm like, I knew I wanted to play this game. So make sure, even if you nix something off of your playing currently list, you can always add it to that upcoming list and come back to it later. And when you've got a spot available. So I had Pikmin 4 on my upcoming list, but I'm like, I'm already playing 2 Switch games. I don't need to add that on there. But I saw it on the screen because you put it in, and then I saw I could transfer my demo.
I bought it used, so I wanted to check if the person before me remembered to take the gold coins or not, and they did, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but still, that's why it popped up on front.
So now I'm also playing Pikmin 4.
Me too, because of her. Not her sitting next to me, my daughter, because she demanded that.
She really likes those Pikmin.
Yeah, well, I finished Pikmin 2, so I didn't have anything on there to turn on for her.
Well, that's the thing. She was enjoying watching you play Pikmin 2.
Yeah, she thought that was really fun. They all jump in a hole, and they find treasure and bring back to their spaceship. That's what they do. And she loves it. There's even like one bit that I get. There's actually a couple in those like Pikmin shorts that she watches that I get a little nervous about, because of course Pikmin is a very gruesome and terrifying game if you know what's happening, but it's really cute if you don't. And in those shorts, there's only 2 Pikmin that actually die. No, there's a few actually. One gets electrocuted. There's a few Pikmin that actually die in them, and I'm like, I hope she thinks they're just playing pretend or something, because. Like, I don't know what she thinks.
Or they fall asleep.
Like
she
that
probably
guy just got
they fall asleep.
eaten. He got eaten and crunch by a Bulborb. He spits out the top of its head.
I danced around the topic of death the other day when she found a dead cricket. It was an interesting conversation.
But still, like, that kind of stuff can scare. But it determines us as parents what we play and helps us figure out what we should be playing while she's up. And a lot of them, are the portable things that I can hold. Because, like, I'm exhausted. I get her down for lunch. She's watching whatever she wants to watch on TV right now. So I have, like, 10 minutes to myself. Or an hour anymore. She likes to very slowly eat and watch TV and zone out, which I don't want her to do. But I'll at least, like, if I'm exhausted, I'll pull up, like, my 3DS and try and play something quickly. And it helps so much having that list. Because otherwise, once again, with the modded system, you look at, like, a ton of different games that you want to play all at once. And you go, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
You're not spending that time looking for a game to play. You know what you want to play.
You don't want to spend your valuable free time thinking about what you want to do and what would make you happy the most at this particular moment. Like, just play something.
And I know as she gets older, she's going to want to play games herself probably. So we're going to have to dance around like, we only have one Nintendo Switch in the house.
Well, Dad has all of these, like, so many consoles. Like, what games can I play? Dad has thousands of games you can play at this moment. This was never a thing. This assuming she's going to be interested in stuff like that. Yeah. We don't really know because at my age, it's not like my dad had an Atari that I could have, like, I probably would have been really interested in it. Yours did. Your dad had a Rob, for crying out loud. Man, I wanted that Rob. Anyway, it's not like, we could imagine what this is going to be like if she's going to be interested in all of those.
Because, like, I think, I was an only child, too. So, like, I didn't have the other complications that you had where you're trying to share consoles with your siblings.
Yeah, when she gets older, the Switch is going to be as old as the NES when I was her age. So, like, is she going to be interested in that? I mean, I still play NES games. You don't. Most people probably don't, but they're good.
I mean, you made me play a few of them, and I am playing Link to the Past, so...
That's not an NES game.
It's an SNES game, and that's about as old as I'll get, unless you're talking about some Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario is some good stuff. That's also, NES. Yeah, I got to play that for N64, too.
Yeah, just as she gets older, we're going to be able to have a little bit more flexibility playing games, and I'm sure that goes for a lot of other parents out there, too. And for us, it's nice to be able to play games at the same time. We don't typically play games together as much. We're more or less, one of us plays a game while the other's playing a game, and we just kind of talk about what we're playing at that time. And
it also kind of helps, like,
easier.
I think sometimes we will vicariously play a game through the other person.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I wanted to, so I played, for example, Persona 5 on the PS4. In fact, it's probably down here somewhere. This is that's the way that I actually played it myself, hands-on. And then the Royal comes out, and I'm like, great, they just added a bunch of new content to this. It's not like you can just buy it and port your save file over, because the way the game works, you move day by day, and you, like, it is functionally different. I'm like, great! So now I want to know what that is, but I don't want to invest another 120 hours into
apparently it. I did.
Well, you did. So
I got really excited.
We wanted to make sure we hunted down that game. But now, to make sure that we're not... Because we both played Persona 5.
We both played Persona 5,
and now you are playing Persona 5.
We did not own Persona 5.
Right,
so
we borrowed it.
That was also another problem.
We borrowed it. And now you're playing that, but I was like, okay, 120 hours, just think, like, step back for a second. Imagine you're looking at all your games laid out in front of you, and you could just, like imagine, like, Post-it notes or something, and each Post-it note is an hour, and you have 120 of those puppies, and you could just, like, put them everywhere. Like, what would you want to finish in all of that time? You could finish so many games in that time, and that's what I did.
Or you could play Persona 5 Royal.
Or you could take all of those posties back and put every single one of them on Persona 5 Royal, and you could finish that. But yeah, I wanted to see what was different in it. And Kim, how long have you been playing that game? You just, like, last night finally beat
I feel like longer than the number you have on there.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Because there's more content to the game, and you spend a lot of time in the extra content that they added. So
I do.
But yeah, that's the point, though. But still, there's other stuff that does come out, like Crisis Core. I picked that up, and I had an opening in my.
You had an opening on your Switch.
I had an opening at the time, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play Crisis Core, even though she bought it. She was the one who wanted to play it. I start playing it, and then she basically watches me play it. and that like kind of filled that role. It kind of
pushed it back on my list, you know, where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play it a lot differently. I feel
out of disappointment for what the content was, or because you got to see what the game was.
I got to see what the game was.
Okay, yeah,
and
that's
it's not
what
like
I was hoping.
I didn't know what the game was going into it. But it kind of pushed it down on my list because I'm like, I just saw this, so it just ended up being. It's not even on my upcoming list now, I don't think, because I've decided, you know, I want to play Pikmin 4 and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Xenogears and Witcher 2.
Yeah.
You know.
There's a lot of stuff.
All these old games that are on my list. And I am pretty much not even touching NES and SNES games.
And none of these games are going anywhere. That's another thing. I think people anymore get way too hyper-fixated on the new stuff coming out. And they totally forget that, like, hey, last year, like, just alone, and you can say this for pretty much any year, last year alone was, like, bigger than any other year in gaming we've ever had. If you go through the years in HITBOX that Zach and I do, or we go through years in gaming history, we've gotten to the point in 2001 was the most recent one we recorded, where, like, so many things are coming out all at once, even in 2001, that I can even, like, look at that year, and we have to go back and say, like, okay, imagine it's 2001. Where do you put your money? There's just so much coming out. And this isn't, like, I'm not trying to single out 2001. Like, every single year from, like, 2000 on, we were smothered in great options and stuff to play. And those games aren't going away. They're all still there. So just because, you know, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is coming out, and you're super excited about that, have you played every other Super Mario Bros. 2D game? Really?
I don't think I played Mario Odyssey until 4 or 5 years after it came out.
Yeah, right.
And I still enjoyed it.
Oh yeah,
great.
It's not like it's less fun. You know, I think people like are hanging on to the that stagnation that happened early on in game history, where graphics changing quickly was the big thing.
That's where I was at when I was a lot younger. I was always a console behind, though, so you got to keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah, as was I.
Because that's what I could afford. I'm always a console behind, but I was like, whatever the newest graphic was, that was just the best game at the time.
Yeah,
like, I saw no point
back then,
going
like,
back.
a game is objectively inferior if its graphics weren't the same.
But I totally don't think that
No,
anymore.
that's stupid. Like, I could look at, like, for example, I would probably say low poly, like N64 and PS1 aged the worst.
FF7 and I am having a ball.
Oh yeah, and I would say Metal Gear Solid 1's art style is incredible, and I love it. And it's on PS1. There's nothing wrong with PS1. Good games, like, find a way to take their limitations and make them shine in a way that is, like, pushing the console to its limit, but also make, like, let your imagination fill the gaps. I personally don't like, in new games, having to wait 30 seconds to a minute on average every single time I go through a loading screen, just because I have to load all the dirt particles and the leaves and the grass and everything else. Like, make it a texture. You know, it's not hurting the game.
We're really off topic.
I know, but, like, that's why, like, new games typically, I think they all have a huge problem of trying to chase ideal graphics, and they are hurting themselves. And we can look back at this enormous wealth of games that already exist that you can clearly go through and make an entire playing responsibly list for yourself for, ignoring everything that is to come for the rest of your life, and you will probably never finish your list of games that you want to play.
I think it's also just because they've almost become art styles and genres to have pixels and low poly things. It's more of like an artistic decision anymore than it was back in the day. So I feel like you can get away with it a lot more.
Yeah, sure. But
as long as your gameplay's good. But if your gameplay is terrible,
yeah, the game's just got to load quickly and play well. That's really it. So I mean, sure, people have they have all their console races to try and make the new console load faster and have bigger, beefier graphics. But if the consoles,
have a PS5.
Yeah, well, when the consoles cost over $500, the console alone costs that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, how do you justify that financially to yourself?
And that's it's the same one controller too. So
yeah, you get one controller, and then that's 0 games too. So imagine like the same thing you did with the Post-it notes for time, and you want to like look at your games, lay them on the ground, and figure out what you want to invest your time in. Do the same for your money. This is a different thing, but like if you're looking nowadays at like, I want to play a PS5 so I can play Elden Ring and Final Fantasy Rebirth, and that's basically all you mentioned. Look at how much money you had to sink to play 2 games. It's obscene.
We do kind of have that. This is another rule in our household. We have to have like a minimum of 4 to 5 games on the console that we want to play.
I think it was 5, like at least 5 games before you can justify buying the console. I feel like now anymore we need to change it as a ratio based on like how much does the console cost.
Yeah.
Because, like, it wasn't that bad saying, like, okay, I was convincing you to play in college some of the Pokemon games, so you went to a game store and bought a used, like, DSi or something like that? DS Lite? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a DS Lite.
Yeah, but, like, that investment wasn't it was nothing compared to, imagine...
It's like $100 or something.
Yeah, imagine if I was like, oh, yeah, hey, Kim, you should play Final Fantasy 16. I think you would really like it. You just gotta go down to your local Walmart every week, check their stock inventory on the website, hope that they actually have some shipments in, buy a $1,000 game console before you start sinking money into a controller, and then playing on... You even don't have to pay for you have to pay for online for that too, and then paying for the game itself. 1 game!
Yep, that's too much.
It's way too much. It's silly.
So we highly encourage that you get organized about your gaming. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money.
Please play responsibly.
Please play responsibly.
If it helps you in any way. It's at least stuff that we do in this household. I don't know if it will help you guys, but you know how much free time you have a week, and if you don't, like, sit down and think about it. Like, are you going to school? X out that much time a week. How much time you actually have for free time a day? And you say, like, okay, if you want to play 20 games, how are you feasibly going to do that when you only have, like, 15 hours of free time a week? Try and organize everything, write it down. It actually helps a ton, especially, like I said, with the highlighting thing, figuring out, like, okay, these games are on this console, and then look at, like, genres, try and organize it by that, and then you'll see, okay, not only, like, sure, you like certain game styles, of course, but, like...
You like a lot of JRPGs.
You like a lot of JRPGs, but you'll know by how much, just by looking at it, how much of a time investment certain games are, and you can't just go, like, okay, I really want to play... Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now, but Sea of Stars just came out, and I want to play that more, so I'm going to put my RPG time over towards that.
It's a lot. It's definitely a commitment, even just getting this list written down, because we've had our friend try it, and it did not go so well, but you have to be determined and
It was Zach. You guys know who it is. We don't have any friends. Don't let her fool you.
We were trying to get him to be organized about his games, and it just, like, kept falling apart because there was nobody holding him to it. And,
I think that might have been it, because, it's not like the list idea didn't work. Like, sure, he wrote everything down, but, too many things are coming out, and, I have this problem, too. Zach and I both get really excited about certain games we find, or certain sales for stuff. We're like, oh, I really wanted to try that, and maybe something will tantalize you because it's kind of shorter. Like he loves RPGs, and he's been playing a lot of older, shorter ones lately. So, like, trying to chip away at some of those that you could probably beat in 40 hours, which is a ton, but, like, for an RPG, that's nothing. So, like, for him, it's, it's really cool that he can go through and play a bunch of RPGs and blast through them.
Full time. He has to take care of his parents.
Exactly.
It's not like
there's so much that he's got going too.
Sleeping's important, Zach.
And he's got this thing where he, like, and I don't want to just tangent this into singling out and picking on Zach. No, I'm not. He will just start opening, and I will do this too. I used to do this really badly. I would just, like, boot up a game and just start playing it and go, like, hey, this is cool. This is this thing I owned. I'm really happy because it's fun to start games.
That's why I came to you and I was like, isn't this like the 6th game you've started this week?
Yeah, and just saying, all right, we got to stop. We got to,
you've got to put. So you've got to be disciplined to it and committed to it. And, it's just the same as any other discipline in your life when you're trying to learn an organizational skill.
Yeah, just try and hold yourself to it.
Yeah.
And make sure that you can withhold from yourself. If you do see a sale for a game that you absolutely wanted to get, it's fine to get it. Just make sure you don't, like, try and start it until you have opened up that space. And kind of, you'll come up with your own rules. in your head of like what games you're going to play, you know, and which ones you got to knock off before you have others. Like I said, mine personally are like, okay, I try to have like one thing on each console that I'm doing at a time. You might have more.
Different
like I said,
genres.
Do different genres just so you can jump around.
And if you're not sharing the household and sharing consoles, then it's a lot easier for you to...
But it's also, it's easier for you to jump around and play whatever you want. But it's also, I think, for Zach's example, it's a lot easier to not hold yourself to making sure that you stick to this list. Because this list is like the best way to efficiently play your games. There's so much extra time we're spending like just looking through a bunch of stuff. And then also forgetting things that we were playing. That was the worst when I was younger. Just starting something over because you forgot where you were. I hate that. That
happens to Zach all the time.
It used to happen to me all the time, too.
So now we know, like, no, just follow this list. You know where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, finish things before you forget what the controls are. And having a smaller list will help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I can comfortably jump between Persona 5 Royal and Link to the Past because the controls are simple enough. These are games I pick up at least once a week. You know, so I'm not forgetting how to play them. I'm not forgetting what's in them.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting when I boot up Strikers again, but...
Luckily, you're playing on easy modes.
I'm playing on safe mode.
It doesn't really matter too much, I think.
Anyway, we encourage you all to get out there and get organized and play more of the games that you love.
Yeah. Video games are fun. Did you know that? They're good. I like them. And by no means are we recommending sit down and catalog every single video game you have ever played, put pictures on it in a giant Google Sheets document.
That'll be for another episode.
and here, even get it so that it will total all of the total hours and playtime and then put it on another document over to the side so you can see where all your time...
I have this love affair going with Google Sheets.
There's
and Excel.
You can do all this crazy stuff with it.
Great.
I would have never known that I have sunk in 2.5 years of my life into actively playing video games. Now I know that. I'm actually like...
And that you've sunk in more hours onto the Switch than any other console.
Oh, wow. Is that true? I was going to say the DS has to have that in the bag, but it doesn't. Nope, it does. It totally does. You're looking at the decimals.
Yep.
Yeah, the decimal.
You gotta fix that.
Yeah, shiny hunting on the DS Pokemon games is gonna destroy that. Okay, she can do a bunch of other crazy stuff on this.
If you guys want to send me your list of video games, I'll just make you.
No, she doesn't. No time for that. Do it yourself. Actually, I think if you you can link to my video game resume if you want to look at it right now. It is on my YouTube About page, if I forget to put it in the video description, because I probably will. So you will find it there. So if you go to my main channel on YouTube, scroll all the way to the right, About shows up there, and I have links for this stuff right there, so you can find it. If you want to do something extreme like that, you can, and let us know in the
really
comments and all that if you want us
age.
to make a video game resume series for this as well.
It's really helpful in this day and age when you have digital and physical. It's nice to be able to look at things in one spot.
Yeah, it's really nice. Also, like, saying, like, okay, I just finished this, what can I play next? That's why I was talking about the video game resume at the beginning, aside from the fact that that's what you were looking at. This helps me so much, because I can just pull this up, scroll through something, and go, oh, I'm feeling, playing, like I said, Mega Man. Where was I in Mega Man? Mega Man 2.
Jam and Earl.
Toe Jam, whatever. Play whatever, on whatever console. Helps you pop this up really quick, and it's really helpful. It took a lot of time to build it, but I really appreciate having it now, but... Either way, that is up for you to decide on what to do and how to manage your time in Vigi games and play all that extra nonsense. But either way, that is all the time we have for this one. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoyed the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting us on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this video's description. And for those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future. And special thanks to all of our amazing Baby Patreon members. Okay, we gotta get the baby. She woke up. Goodbye.
Bye.